The drama begins with a Mafia boss named Gitchi storming into a restaurant with his men to punish a dealer who dared to sell goods inside their territory. The moment the terrified man sees him, he immediately starts begging for forgiveness, swearing that it will never happen again. But Gitchi coldly replies that he came personally to make sure it never happens a second time. Then, without hesitation, he pulls out a sword and brutally cuts the man's hand, showing everyone exactly why nobody dares challenge his authority. Just then, one of his men rushes in with urgent news. The gang leader has ordered everyone back to the mansion immediately because they discovered that the informant leaking their secrets to the police is about to meet Officer Juan on Zhejiang Street. Their men are already heading there. However, there is one problem. Yu is also there. Yu happens to be our beautiful heroine, and the second Gitchi hears her name. He immediately races toward the street where she is. Meanwhile, Yu is sitting with a fortune teller who is supposedly reading her future. As soon as the fortune teller leaves to get her something to drink, Yu quietly slips away and heads to the rooftop, where she meets Officer Juan. It is then revealed that Yu is actually the spy who has been secretly feeding information about the gang to the police. Juan warns her to be careful because the gang has become suspicious lately and has realized that someone is reporting their movements. He promises to arrange another contact for her in case anything happens to him. Yu then hands him a flash drive, explaining that she found it but isn't sure whether it contains anything useful. Before they can continue talking, Juan receives a phone call informing him that the gang has discovered he is meeting the informant and that they are already on their way. Yu immediately runs to escape, while Juan quickly hides the flash drive inside a potted plant on the rooftop. Moments later, a slimy-looking gang member arrives with several men and confronts Officer Juan. As for Yu, she rushes downstairs, but before she can reach the street, she suddenly witnesses Juan falling from the rooftop right in front of her. He dies instantly. Police cars arrive at the scene almost immediately, and Gitchi also reaches the location at the same time. He approaches Yu, grabs her, and quietly pulls her away from the area. A young police officer who seems to know Yu notices them and follows, but by the time he catches up, they have already escaped in a car. Gitchi brings Yu back to the gang's mansion. After stepping out of the car, he pulls her close in a surprisingly rough manner. Furious, Yu asks whether he has completely lost his mind. Ignoring her anger, he deliberately leaves marks on her neck and tells her that if anyone asks questions, she should say that she spent the entire night with him and that they have not been apart since. When Yu enters the mansion, she lifts her hair to show the marks on her neck to the gang members standing nearby. She casually tells them that she spent a wonderful night with Gitchi. The gang members immediately start joking among themselves, teasing Gitchi for being such a ladies' man. Soon, a sharp and intimidating woman enters. She mocks Gitchi, saying he is actually too innocent and that Yu is the dangerous one because she knows exactly how to manipulate men and wrap them around her finger. She then steps toward Yu, holding a wooden stick and threatening her while claiming she is close to uncovering the truth about where Yu was and what she was doing earlier that day. Yu refuses to be intimidated. She snatches the stick from the woman's hand and tells her to stop obsessing over her and leave her alone. Enraged, the woman grabs a vase and prepares to smash it over Yu's head, but Gitchi suddenly appears and catches her arm before she can attack. Furious, the woman accuses him of secretly working with Yu behind everyone's backs. At that moment, the gang leader walks in and scolds her for making such accusations. He reminds her that Gitchi grew up alongside them and would never betray the organization. Then, the slimy gang member who attacked Officer Juan speaks up. He claims that when Juan saw them coming, he panicked, jumped from the rooftop himself, and died. He even pretends to mourn the officer before revealing that he managed to take Juwan's phone. According to him, the phone will expose the traitor once and for all. A man standing beside the gang leader takes the phone and begins dialing a number stored inside it. Yu freezes in terror. Her heart feels like it might stop. Her knees begin shaking uncontrollably, and fear completely takes over her face. Seeing her panic, Gitchi quietly reaches out and holds her hand, silently trying to reassure her before the truth is revealed. The shocking twist is that the phone ends up ringing in the pocket of another gang member. The terrified man immediately drops to his knees and begs the gang leader for mercy. He swears that he only met Officer Juan once and never gave him any useful information. He also insists that he was nowhere near Zhejiang Street that day. However, before he can reveal that Yu was actually there, the gang suddenly opens fire and kills him on the spot. Afterward, the fierce woman breaks down crying over his body while the gang members casually throw his corpse to the dogs. Furious, she tells the slimy gang member that the dead man grew up with all of them and never deserved such a horrible end. As Gitchi and Yu leave the mansion and get into a car, the slimy man tries to follow them. He tells the woman that he is certain Yu was on Zhejiang Street and that she was the one meeting Officer Juan. The woman stops him and tells him not to act recklessly. Instead, they should make a careful plan, expose Yu, and get their revenge. Meanwhile, the gang leader secretly meets a masked man. He confesses that he suspects there are still other spies hidden inside the organization besides the man who just died. Handing over Officer Juwan's phone, he orders the masked man to investigate Yu. He wants to know whether Gitchi's lover is involved, especially since she used to have a close relationship with Juwan in the past. Later, Yu returns home with Gitchi. As she searches her pockets for her phone, she suddenly realizes it is missing. Gitchi calmly pulls it out and asks if this is what she is looking for. She immediately understands that he secretly searched her while they were in the car. Gitchi admits that if he had not taken her phone and hidden the fact that she was on Zhejiang Street, she would already be dead. Then he looks her directly in the eyes and demands the truth. He asks whether she was meeting Officer Juwan and secretly feeding him information about the gang. Yu instantly acts offended. She accuses him of completely losing his mind and asks how he could ever suspect her. Then she pulls a piece of paper from her bag and explains that she was visiting a fortune teller who gave her that paper. If he does not believe her, she tells him to go ask the fortune teller himself. Fighting back tears, she reminds him that she already cut ties with the man who raised her like his own daughter, meaning Officer Juwan. She sacrificed her entire family just to stay by Gitchi's side. Through her tears, she asks if it is not enough that she watched Juwan die right in front of her. She even points out that the gang killed him, yet she never once questioned why. Honestly, the woman deserves an Oscar for that performance. Despite her convincing act, Gitchi grabs her by the neck and tells her she is lying. He refuses to believe her. Yu then raises her phone and says she will prove everything. But if she succeeds, they will both go their separate ways forever. Gitchi simply snatches the phone from her hands, removes the SIM card, and throws it away. He coldly tells her that he will decide when things begin and when they end. From now on, he wants to know everywhere she goes, and one of his men will accompany her wherever she travels. A little later, Gitchi's right-hand man arrives with new information. After investigating, he confirms that Yu was indeed at the fortune teller's place and was not lying about that part of her story. Before continuing with the present-day events, the story flashes back 6 years into the past and reveals how Gitchi and Yu first met. Back then, Gitchi was dealing with another gang that had been terrorizing people in his neighborhood. His right-hand man suddenly warned him that the police had arrived and they needed to leave. While escaping, Gitchi accidentally crossed paths with a much younger Yu as she was leaving her apartment. Soon after, Gitchi, his men, and members of the rival gang were all arrested and brought to the police station. The officers called Yu in to identify who started the fight. The rival gang claimed that Gitchi attacked them first, but Yu shocked everyone by telling the truth. She testified that the rival gang started everything. Later, Gitchi approached her and asked why she testified in his favor. For some reason, despite only knowing him for a few minutes, Yu told him that she believed he was a good man who protected weak people from bullies. Not long after that, members of the rival gang kidnapped Yu. They threatened her, saying that nobody would be able to save her after she testified against them. They planned to teach her a lesson. Fortunately, Gitchi arrived just in time. He brutally beat every one of them and rescued Yu. He took her home, treated her injuries, and promised that he would make those men pay. And he was not joking. Gitchi immediately went to the rival gang's headquarters and burned the entire place to the ground. When news of this reached the fierce woman, she stormed into a meeting where Gitchi was sitting with the gang leader. She angrily demanded to know why he attacked the rival gang. According to her, Yu's brother owed that gang a huge debt and had practically handed Yu over as payment. She reminded Gitchi that these were the rules of their world and asked why he was interfering. Gitchi replied that he had already paid the debt in full, yet the gang still refused to release Yu. Since they ignored the deal, they brought the destruction upon themselves. Then he sarcastically asked the woman why she was so upset. Had she been receiving money from them or something? The woman then revealed a shocking secret. She told Gitchi that his precious Yu was actually the adopted daughter of a police officer. She suspected that Yu was manipulating him to infiltrate the gang. To prove it, she handed him documents showing that Yu was Officer Juwon's adopted daughter. Gitchi immediately rushed to find Yu. When he arrived, he saw her desperately begging Officer Juwon not to abandon her, but Juwon coldly replied that she had chosen to stay with that gangster, meaning Gitchi. Since she had made her choice, she should stay away from them. Then he walked away and left her crying on the ground. At that moment, Gitchi ran to her, wrapped his arms around her and comforted her. That was the exact moment he fell in love with her. The story then returns to the present. Feeling guilty about their recent argument, Gitchi tries to make peace with Yu. He tells her to get dressed because they are going out. Yu refuses and says she is not going anywhere with him. Gitchi simply throws a dress at her and tells her she is coming whether she likes it or not. Then he literally picks her up and carries her off to get ready. When they finally leave together, Yu is shocked to discover that he has taken her to Officer Juwon's funeral. Furious, she refuses to go inside. Gitchi tells her that she can stay in the car if she wants, then enters the funeral with his men. Inside, he encounters the young police officer who knew Yu. The officer immediately orders the gang members to leave and asks who gave them permission to attend the funeral. Gitchi sarcastically replies that perhaps he was wrong for coming to pay his respects in the first place. He then turns around and leaves with his men. As they walk out, Gitchi's right-hand man quietly informs him that the young officer has officially taken over Juwon's position. Gitchi immediately orders his men to keep a close eye on him. Outside, Yu remembers a conversation she once had with Officer Juwon. Back then, she begged him to help her destroy Leader Kwan's gang, the very gang Gitchi belongs to. She revealed that the gang framed her father in a bribery scandal that ruined his life. They also trapped her brother in crushing debt until he was forced to sell her to them. Yu swore that she would take revenge because they had destroyed her entire family. Juwon then reminded her that she was dating Officer Zui Hong, the same young officer who is now standing at the funeral. Yu explained that he was about to receive a promotion, and if people learned about her family's scandal, it could destroy his future. Back in the present, Gitchi continues trying to make peace with her. He explains that he brought her to the funeral because he knows how much the man who raised her meant to her. If she had attended alone, the gang leader would have become suspicious of her. Then, in a surprisingly reckless move, he hands her a razor and asks whether she is still angry with him. Yu presses the razor against Gitchi's neck and tells him that she is still angry enough to kill him. Then she ties his hands with the belt from her robe and says that even if she cannot kill him, she can at least arrest him. Gitchi simply pulls her into his arms and laughs, telling her that nobody can capture him unless he allows it. As he holds her close, Yu remembers what she did after returning to the rooftop where Officer Juwon died. Back then, she secretly recovered the flash drive she had given Juwon before his death. He had hidden it inside a plant pot, and she managed to retrieve it without anyone noticing. Shortly afterward, she received a message from someone claiming to be the contact Juwon had arranged for her. Yu replies cautiously, telling him that if he is really Juwon's trusted contact, he should be able to decipher her code. She then sets a specific time and place for them to meet. On the day of the meeting, Yu heads out to meet the mysterious contact, only to be shocked when Gitchi suddenly climbs into her car. He cheerfully announces that he plans to spend the entire day with her. Yu immediately becomes nervous and tries to convince him that her errand is not important. She even suggests that they go have lunch together instead. Unfortunately, Gichi refuses. He tells her not to change her plans because of him and insists on accompanying her wherever she is going. The man turns out to be far clingier than she expected. When they finally arrive at the meeting location, Gichi receives a phone call and steps away to answer it. The moment he leaves, the person Yu was supposed to meet arrives. To her surprise, the mysterious contact is none other than the young police officer who recently replaced Officer Juwon. Another shocking revelation follows. The officer is actually Yu's former boyfriend. Years ago, she broke up with him when she decided to get close to Gichi in order to bring down the gang. At the time, she told him that she had fallen in love with another man. The two moved to a secluded area away from Gichi. The officer reassures her that he arranged for someone to keep Gichi occupied while they talk. Yu immediately asks whether the police have identified the corrupt officer secretly working with the gang leader. Unfortunately, he admits that the investigation is still ongoing and they have not uncovered anything yet. Yu then asks how he knew she was Juwon's informant. After all, the gang took Juwon's phone, so there should have been no evidence left behind. The officer explains that when he inherited Juwon's position, he found clues among his belongings that revealed Yu's identity. He quickly assures her that nobody else knows about her connection to Juwon. Relieved, Yu apologizes for doubting him, but before they can continue talking, Gichi suddenly calls her and announces that he is heading toward their location. The officer immediately hides before Gichi arrives. Later that night, the gang's nightclub manager arrests the slimy gang member responsible for attacking Officer Juwon. At the same time, Gichi's right-hand man informs him that the gang leader wants something done about the new police officer. The gang sees him as a threat and wants him removed from their affairs. Sometime later, Yu attends an event with Gichi. While there, she notices the young police officer watching her from a distance. Suddenly, a car comes speeding toward him and slams into him right in front of her eyes. He crashes to the ground unconscious. The sight terrifies Yu so much that she nearly collapses. Fortunately, Gichi catches her before she falls. When he asks what is wrong, she quickly claims that she simply twisted her ankle while walking. Later, while they are riding in the car, Gichi's right-hand man casually mentions that the officer was involved in an accident and suffered a broken leg. He adds that someone else has temporarily taken over his duties. Gichi seems satisfied and tells him to relax. Then he turns to Yu and asks whether she is not curious about what happened. Yu calmly replies that she has never been the type to interfere in matters that do not concern her. Eventually, they arrive at a grand party being held at one of the gang's clubs. As soon as Yu enters, she notices something bizarre. The slimy gang member has somehow gotten inside while dressed like one of the women who perform at the entrance. The sight alone is ridiculous, but things quickly become dangerous. Later, while Yu is alone, the slimy man suddenly attacks her with a knife. He tells her that she must be surprised he got released so quickly. He is convinced that she had something to do with his arrest because the officer who captured him was a student of Officer Juwon, the very man who raised her. Consumed by rage, he tells Yu that he is going to destroy her beautiful face. Then they will see whether Gichi still loves her. Yu shoves him away and knocks him to the floor. Mocking him, she says she will simply tell Gichi that the drugs have completely fried his brain and driven him insane. Unfortunately, that only makes him more dangerous. He grabs her, presses the knife against her neck, and says that if she wants to play games, then they can die together. Just as things are about to turn deadly, the fierce woman suddenly appears and pulls him away from Yu. She angrily demands to know whether he has lost his mind. The club is packed with people and covered in security cameras. If he attacks Yu there, he will doom himself. The woman drags him into another room, ties him up, and locks the door from the outside. She tells him he will stay there until the party is over. Then she returns to Yu, accompanied by another woman who acts like a spoiled beauty queen. The fierce woman proudly introduces her as the daughter of an influential official and the newly crowned Miss City Beauty Queen. To Yu's shock, the woman announces that the beauty queen, not Yu, will be the one to officially open the nightclub and cut the ribbon. Then she orders Yu to take off her dress and hand it over. A waitress timidly reminds her that Gitchi specifically said Yu would be the one cutting the ribbon. The fierce woman immediately slaps the waitress across the face and tells her to stay out of matters that do not concern her. Afterward, she throws a waitress uniform at Yu and tells her to put it on. Mockingly, she says Yu should start getting used to serving them if she plans to marry Gitchi one day. As the opening ceremony begins, the beauty queen confidently walks onto the stage wearing Yu's dress and preparing to cut the ribbon. At the exact same moment, the slimy gang member manages to escape from the room where he was locked up and starts chasing after her with murder in his eyes, determined to finish what he started, in front of everyone. At the ceremony, chaos suddenly erupts when the escaped gang member attacks the woman wearing Yu's dress. Gitchi is horrified for a moment because he thinks the victim is Yu. Fortunately, he quickly realizes that Yu is standing safely beside him. She reassures him that she is unharmed, allowing him to breathe again. Later, the gang leader sits down to investigate what happened. The fierce woman immediately points at Yu and accuses her of being behind the entire incident. According to her, Yu deliberately agreed to hand over the dress because she knew the slimy gang member hated her. She claims Yu stole the key, released him from confinement, and set everything up so he would attack the beauty queen while believing she was Yu, making a fool of himself in front of everyone. Yu fires back without hesitation. She asks whether the woman has become so desperate that she blames every disaster on her. After all, she was the one forced to give up the dress, and there are witnesses who can confirm it. The fierce woman angrily calls Yu a snake hiding beneath the grass and raises her hand to slap her. Before she can, the gang leader stands up and slaps the fierce woman instead. Furious, he tells her that both she and the slimy gang member caused a massive scandal and humiliated him in front of important guests on one of the most important days for the organization. He then orders Gitchi to imprison the slimy man and punish both him and the fierce woman for their actions. The next day, Gitchi hands Yu the ownership key to the nightclub. He explains that the land where the club was built originally belonged to her brother. Because of that, he transferred ownership of the nightclub into her name. Meanwhile, the fierce woman visits the slimy gang member after his brutal punishment. Covered in bruises and barely able to move, he complains that Yu completely outplayed both of them and even stole control of the nightclub. Instead of panicking, the fierce woman smiles and says that if Yu enjoys playing games, then they should play one of their own. She pulls out a flash drive and reveals her new plan. The drive contains a copy of the gang's financial records, but every single file on it is fake. She tells the slimy man that his job is simple. He only needs to make sure Yu discovers that he possesses the flash drive and believes it contains all of the gang's secrets. Once Yu steals it and delivers it to her police contact, they will catch her red-handed and expose her in front of everyone. Not long afterward, Yu arrives at the nightclub and runs into both of them. As she enters the office, she notices the smell of cigarette smoke. The fierce woman scolds the slimy man, reminding him that the office no longer belongs to them and that the new manager might not appreciate him smoking there. After they leave, Yu examines a trash basket and discovers a partially burned piece of paper along with a damaged flash drive. Curious, she plugs the drive into a laptop and finds what appears to be the gang's financial records. Immediately, she contacts the young police officer and tells him what she found. Watching through the security cameras, the fierce woman smirks and tells her partner that the fish has finally taken the bait. Later, Yu meets someone at an abandoned location. Hidden in the distance, the slimy gang member watches everything. Convinced he has finally caught her, he approaches and dramatically removes the hood covering the person she is meeting. To his surprise, the person turns out to be one of their own gang members. At the same time, the fierce woman calls Gitchi and asks him to come to the abandoned building. She tells him there is something he absolutely needs to see. When Gitchi arrives, he finds Yu lying on the ground while the slimy gang member holds a knife to her throat. The gang members immediately pull Gitchi away before he can intervene. Then, Yu suddenly hands Gitchi the flash drive and tells him that she successfully recovered it from the traitor. The truth is finally revealed. Yu had become suspicious about the flash drive from the beginning. She noticed people watching her and secretly worked together with the young police officer to turn the trap against its creators. To strengthen her cover, she even showed Gitchy's right-hand man a mysterious message claiming that someone was selling the gang's secrets. She convinced him to accompany her to the abandoned location. The fierce woman and the slimy gang member believed Yu was heading there to hand over the flash drive to the police. What they did not know was that Yu had secretly replaced the fake files with real information from the gang's records. When the fierce woman confidently opens the flash drive to prove Yu's guilt, she is stunned to discover that the information is completely authentic. Yu had outplayed them all. Realizing they have been exposed, Gitchy coldly tells the two conspirators that he knows exactly how to make them confess. Desperate to protect the fierce woman, the slimy gang member immediately claims full responsibility. He insists that she had nothing to do with the scheme and that he acted alone. Gitchy accepts his confession. Then he calmly informs him that he will pay for his betrayal with his life. To prove her loyalty to the organization, the fierce woman personally kills the slimy gang member with her own hands. Later, she kneels before the gang leader and begs for forgiveness. She asks for one final chance to remain in the organization. The leader agrees, but only on one condition. From now on, she must obey Gitchy's orders without question. Not long after, Gitchy makes a shocking announcement of his own. He tells the gang leader that he wants to leave the criminal world behind and travel abroad with Yu. The leader does not immediately reject the idea. Instead, he asks Gitchy to help with one final major deal. Once the operation is complete, he promises to let him retire and leave. Meanwhile, the gang leader meets with the masked investigator. He points out that the man has spent 6 months trying to prove that Yu is a spy and has found nothing. Worse yet, Gitchy is now choosing Yu over the organization. The leader admits that he has no intention of letting Gitchy walk away. If Gitchy tries to leave him, he warns, it will end with Gitchy's death. Later, Gitchy happily tells Yu about their future plans. He explains that the gang leader agreed to let him leave after one final deal. Once it is finished, they can leave together and start a new life. Yu immediately shares the information with the young police officer. The officer reveals that the gang leader is running for parliament and is trying to transform all of his criminal operations into legitimate businesses. To secure his political future, he needs $30 million in bribes. That is why the upcoming deal is so important. According to the officer, this is their best opportunity to bring down the entire organization. If they succeed, perhaps he and Yu can finally start over from the beginning. Determined to learn more, Yu begins investigating the final deal. One day, she notices Gitchy's men carrying expensive items into a locked room. Curious, she tries to get inside. To trick Gitchy's right-hand man, she jokingly suggests that his boss must be buying gifts for another woman. Then, she grabs an axe and threatens to break the door down if nobody lets her in. At that exact moment, Gitchy arrives. Smiling, he tells her that he will let her see what's inside. He gently blindfolds her, enters the security code, and leads her into the room. When he removes the blindfold, Yu is stunned. Inside stands a beautiful piano. Gitchy explains that he bought it for the orphanage she regularly visits. The moment he saw it, he knew she would love it. He lifts her onto the piano bench and admits that he wanted it to be a surprise. Touched by the gesture, Yu kisses him. Then she jokingly asks what if he is lying and the piano is actually meant for another woman. To make sure, she insists on accompanying him when he delivers it to the orphanage. Gitchy laughs and reminds her that he already told her the truth. He asks her to trust him. But Yu still suspects he is hiding something. As she kisses him again, she secretly tries to attach a tracking device to the piano. Unfortunately, she cannot find a place to secure it. Just then, Gitchy's right-hand man enters and reports that all surveillance systems and anti-bugging equipment have been activated. Yu notices security cameras throughout the room and realizes she has no chance of planting the tracker. Soon afterward, Gitchy tells her that he is heading out to receive an important shipment. The weather outside is terrible. Dark clouds cover the sky, emergency warnings are being issued everywhere, and reports are predicting that a powerful typhoon is about to strike. As Gitchi prepares to leave, Yu teasingly tells him that he probably has a new sweetheart waiting for him somewhere and is only making excuses to get away from her. Gitchi notices that she is standing barefoot, so he pulls her onto his lap and gently slips her sandals back onto her feet. Smiling, he tells her that he is actually happy to see her acting jealous. The moment he leaves, Yu immediately puts her plan into motion. She dismisses all the house staff and gives them the day off. Then she throws a hairdryer into the bathtub, causing a power outage that cuts electricity to the security cameras throughout the house. Meanwhile, at the harbor, the young police officer meets Gitchi and his men despite the terrible weather. Looking around at the storm, he remarks that the shipment must be incredibly important if Gitchi personally came out in conditions like these to receive it. Without missing a beat, Gitchi claims that the shipment contains flood relief equipment. He jokingly says that everyone knows he has a soft heart and loves helping people. The officer replies that he already inspected the cargo and found nothing suspicious. Then, with a mischievous smile, he mentions that perhaps Yu might know something more. After all, he and Yu have known each other for a very long time. The moment he says her name, Gitchi's hand slowly moves toward his gun. The officer immediately laughs and tells him he is only joking. Before anything escalates, Gitchi's right-hand man arrives with urgent news. The power has gone out at the house, and Yu is there completely alone. The officer points out that the storm has blocked the main roads. He even offers to show Gitchi a shortcut back home. Gitchi coldly rejects the offer and tells him to mind his own business and stay away from his woman. Then he sarcastically advises the officer to worry about himself before he accidentally falls into the sea and drowns. Back at the house, Yu sneaks into the room containing the piano and tries to plant a tracking device on it. Unfortunately, the device slips from her hands and disappears into the darkness. As she searches for it, panic suddenly overwhelms her. The darkness triggers traumatic memories from years ago when the gang kidnapped her. She begins having a severe panic attack and struggles to breathe. At the same time, Gitchi is already worried. He knows that Yu suffers from these attacks whenever she is trapped in darkness. While racing home through the storm, he repeatedly calls her. Finally, Yu answers. Gitchi calmly tells her to breathe slowly and not be afraid, because he is on his way. His voice immediately helps her regain control. After calming down, she finds the tracking device and successfully attaches it to the piano. Just as she finishes, Gitchi arrives home. The moment Yu sees him, she runs straight into his arms and hugs him tightly. She admits that she was terrified and cannot believe he came back through such dangerous weather just for her. Gitchi gently tells her that he knows how frightened she becomes in the dark. Then he pulls out a ring. He explains that midnight has already passed and today marks their 5th anniversary together. He originally planned to give her the ring after they traveled abroad, but he simply could not wait any longer. As he tries to place the ring on her finger, Yu takes it from him and kisses him instead. Elsewhere, the young police officer changes clothes and heads to a secret meeting. When he arrives, he greets the gang leader with surprising familiarity and calls him Uncle. That is when the truth finally comes out. The young officer is the traitor. Years ago, the gang leader adopted and raised him. He personally arranged for him to join the police force so he could secretly work for the organization from the inside. He even instructed him to get close to Officer Jawan, earn his trust, and identify any spies Jawan recruited against the gang. Even more shocking, it is revealed that years earlier the officer hired someone to attack Yu, then pretended to rescue her. The entire incident was staged so he could gain Officer Juwan's trust. The gang leader warns the traitorous officer that if anything goes wrong with the upcoming deal, he will not show any mercy. The officer leaves the meeting furious. For years, he has allowed the gang leader to use him like a servant. As he walks away, he angrily complains to himself that he is treated like a dog despite everything he has done. It is then revealed that he deliberately kept one critical secret from the gang leader. He knows that Yu is the real spy. However, instead of exposing her, he plans to use her to destroy the gang leader and free himself from his control. Soon afterward, the traitorous officer reports to the police chief and reveals that he has obtained the location and schedule of the gang's major transaction. The next morning, Gitchy says goodbye to Yu. He tells her that one of his men will take her to the airport while he completes the final deal and meets her there afterward. The moment he leaves, Yu sends a message to the officer, informing him that Gitchy is already on the move. She still believes he is one of the good guys and has no idea about his betrayal. The officer immediately mobilizes a large police force and follows the gang's convoy. Using the GPS signal from the tracker Yu planted inside the piano, he tracks the shipment's location. To his surprise, the convoy arrives at an orphanage. The officer storms inside with dozens of police officers and confronts Gitchy. He claims they received information that illegal goods are hidden inside the crates being delivered. Gitchy calmly tells them to inspect everything. The police search every box. They find absolutely nothing. Meanwhile, one of Gitchy's men escorts Yu toward the airport. He tells her what happened at the orphanage. The police raided the place, found nothing, and completely embarrassed themselves. According to him, the officer responsible now looks like a fool and will probably lose his position because of the scandal. After hearing this, Yu tells the man to wait outside while she changes clothes. Instead of getting ready for the airport, she secretly slips out through another exit and heads straight to the police station. When she arrives, she looks for the officer but cannot find him anywhere. Then, she suddenly sees Gitchy leaving the station. Instantly, alarm bells start ringing in her head. Something feels terribly wrong. Panicking, she turns and runs before he notices her. As she rushes away, she keeps repeating to herself that something is not right. Suddenly, her legs give out beneath her and she collapses onto the ground. A moment later, Gitchy appears beside her. He lifts her up and takes her somewhere unexpected. To her horror, he brings her to the place where the traitorous officer is being held captive. Gitchy looks directly at her and says, "Weren't you looking for him? Well, I brought you right to him." Desperately, Yu explains that she only came to the police station because she was worried after hearing about the raid. But Gitchy no longer believes her. He pulls out the tracking device she planted inside the piano. Then he reveals old photographs showing Yu together with the traitorous officer. Finally, he tells her that he knows everything. He is done listening to lies. Trying to defend herself, Yu admits that she knew the officer long ago, but insists their relationship ended years ago. Gitchy's expression darkens. He tells her that if the shipment had been real, he would be dead by now. Everything he did was for her. He was willing to leave the criminal world behind, abandon everything he built, and start a new life with her. But now, from his perspective, it looks like she only wanted him gone so she could return to her former lover. Tears fill Yu's eyes as she desperately shakes her head. She tells him that none of it is true. She swears she knows nothing about the tracking device and begs him to trust her. But for the first time since they met, Gitchy looks at her as though he no longer knows who she really is. Gitchy stares at Yu with pain and disappointment in his eyes. Then he does something that completely shocks her. He places a gun in her hand and tells her that if she truly wants him to trust her again, she should shoot the traitorous officer right in front of him. He keeps pressuring her to pull the trigger, but Yu refuses. Instead, she turns the gun toward her own head and tells him that this entire situation is just a trap designed to test her loyalty. If he no longer trusts her, then she would rather die in front of him than continue living like this. Gitchy instantly knocks the gun away from her head. Looking at her coldly, he tells her that whether she lives or dies is not her decision to make, it is his. Then he takes the gun, leaves her behind, and walks away. Back at Gitchy's house, his right-hand man informs him that Yu was given a sedative and is now asleep. He also reports that the shipment has been moved to another hiding place until things calm down. Gitchy then asks about the captured police officer. His right-hand man explains that they were planning to throw him into the sea, but the gang leader suddenly sent people to stop them and took the officer away himself. Gitchy is surprised by this unexpected move and begins wondering what the leader is really planning. Meanwhile, the traitorous officer is brought before the gang leader. One of the leader's men wraps a chain around the officer's neck and begins choking him while the leader watches. Furious, the leader accuses him of growing bold enough to betray him and hand him over to the authorities. The officer immediately falls to his knees and desperately explains that he had no idea where the operation was taking place. The police confiscated everyone's phones before the mission, so he had no way to warn him. Begging for mercy, he promises the leader another chance and swears that he can expose the real spy hiding within the organization. The leader lashes him with the chain and warns him that if he fails, he will personally expose the officer's connection to the gang and destroy his entire life. At the same time, the fierce woman takes advantage of the situation. She tells the gang leader that Gitchi was responsible for almost losing the shipment. According to her, there is obviously a traitor somewhere around him, and that traitor must have planted the tracking device. She argues that if everyone else gets punished for mistakes, then Gitchi should be punished as well. To everyone's surprise, Gitchi agrees. He calmly says that she is right and that he deserves punishment. Soon afterward, Gitchi is publicly whipped as punishment for what happened. While recovering at home, Yu overhears Gitchi discussing the next shipment delivery with his right-hand man. Instead of giving up, she secretly vows to continue until the very end. Later, she accompanies Gitchi on an outing. Before leaving, she discreetly hands a servant an envelope containing money and prayer papers, instructing her to deliver it to a temple. What nobody realizes is that the message hidden inside the envelope is actually a coded communication. At the temple, the traitorous officer receives the envelope and successfully deciphers the code. Through the hidden message, he learns the exact time and location of the next shipment. Soon afterward, Gitchi and Yu travel together to the delivery site. Upon arriving, they are shocked to discover that the fierce woman is already there waiting for them. Suddenly, armed snipers appear and aim their rifles at everyone. Gitchi immediately demands to know where the buyer is. The fierce woman smirks and reveals that the buyer works for her. Then she gives him an ultimatum: hand over the shipment or die. But the situation takes another unexpected turn. The snipers suddenly aim their weapons at the fierce woman as well. At the same moment, Gitchi's men attack, overpower her, and take her prisoner. Meanwhile, the traitorous officer is speeding toward the delivery location. Back at the scene, Gitchi reveals that he has suspected the fierce woman for a long time. He already knew she was planning to steal the shipment from him. Just as he seems to have everything under control, someone suddenly presses a gun against the back of his head. Everyone freezes. The person holding the weapon turns out to be the slimy gang member. He is alive. The fierce woman stares at him in shock and demands to know why he came back. She thought he had escaped, so nobody would discover he survived. Ignoring her, the man points the gun at Gitchi and orders him to hand over the money from the shipment or lose his head. Gitchi calmly extends the bag toward him. Then, in one swift motion, he slams the bag into the man's arm, knocking the gun out of his hand. The weapon falls to the ground. The fierce woman immediately grabs it and points it straight at Yu. Without even thinking, Gitchi throws himself in front of her to shield her from the bullet. But before he can take the shot, Yu pushes him aside. The bullet strikes her instead. Everything seems to stop. At that exact moment, the traitorous officer hears a police radio report about gunfire erupting on the bridge where the deal is taking place. He immediately turns his vehicle around and races toward the scene. When he arrives, he sees Gitchi carrying the wounded Yu in his arms as he desperately runs for help. Gitchi rushes her to the hospital. Yu is unconscious. Doctors wheel her into surgery while Gitchi waits outside, completely broken. Hours pass, and he sits there crying, terrified that he might lose her forever. Finally, a doctor emerges from the operating room. He explains that they successfully removed the bullet, but Yu's condition is still critical. There is no guarantee that she will wake up. The news nearly destroys Gitchi. He grabs the doctor by the collar and demands that he save her no matter what it takes. Afterward, Gitchi goes to a temple and prays for the first time in a very long time. Through tears, he makes a promise to God. If Yu survives, he will stop doing evil, stop hurting people, and never kill anyone again. As Yu lies unconscious, memories begin flashing through her mind. She relives every painful moment of her life, the betrayals, the loneliness, and the suffering she endured. But alongside those memories are countless moments of Gitchi protecting her, comforting her, and standing beside her whenever she needed him. Slowly, she begins to fight her way back. At last, Yu opens her eyes. Her condition improves rapidly, and the doctors finally tell Gitchi that she is going to survive. When they are reunited, Yu tearfully tells him that he has done so much for her and begs him to forgive her. But Gitchi shakes his head. He says that he is the one who should apologize. He never should have doubted her or refused to believe her. Yu then confesses that she has nobody else in the world besides him. The only time she truly feels safe is when she is by his side. The two finally make a promise to each other. From now on, they will always trust one another and never let lies come between them again. Elsewhere, the traitorous officer returns to the gang leader with what he claims is the identity of the spy. He presents a fabricated photograph showing the fierce woman together with Officer Juwan and declares that she was the informant all along. Privately, however, he admits his true motive. The fierce woman is already as good as dead, so blaming everything on her protects him. It also allows him to continue using Yu until he finds a way to destroy the gang leader once and for all. After that, he hopes to win Yu back and separate her from Gitchi. The gang leader listens carefully and then asks a different question. He wants to know where the missing shipment went and who the fierce woman was secretly working with. The officer confidently promises that he will uncover everything. Meanwhile, Gitchi visits the prison where the fierce woman and her slimy partner are being held. Looking them in the eye, he demands to know where they sent the shipment and who their mysterious partner was. The fierce woman laughs bitterly and tells him that even if they reveal everything, they will still die in the end. So it makes no difference. Gitchi calmly replies that he already spoke with the gang leader. If they confess, he is willing to spare their lives out of respect for the years they spent together. Then he tosses a sword onto the floor between them. Looking completely serious, he says that he made a promise never to kill again. So if they refuse to talk, they can save him the trouble and kill themselves instead. The fierce woman and the slimy gang member share one final embrace. Then, in a shocking act of devotion, the slimy man picks up the sword Gitchi threw at them and drives it into his own body. Even after everything they had done, the fierce woman can only stare at him in disbelief. Their twisted loyalty to each other had finally reached its tragic end. Not long afterward, Yu secretly meets with the traitorous officer. She tells him they must bring down the gang as quickly as possible because it took everything she had just to make Gitchi trust her again. The officer, however, seems far more interested in something else. He asks why she took the bullet meant for Gitchi. Was it because she loved him? Yu immediately denies it. She explains that if Gitchi had died and someone else had taken control of the shipment, all of her years of effort would have been wasted. Then she asks whether he received the message she sent with the location of the delivery. The officer explains that he was being interrogated at the time and never saw it. On top of that, Gitchi had people watching him everywhere he went, making it nearly impossible for him to move freely. The officer then asks whether she discovered who stole the shipment. Yu looks surprised and asks if it has actually disappeared. He confirms that nobody knows where it went. Yu confidently replies that Gitchi will eventually find it, and when he does, she will let the officer know. She reminds him that she still intends to fulfill her promise to Officer Juwan, to bring the criminals to justice and make them pay for everything they have done. As she prepares to leave, she suddenly freezes. Standing nearby is Gitchi. He has seen them together. Yu quickly walks over and explains that she ran into the officer on her way back from the temple. According to her, he only wanted to ask questions about what happened on the bridge. Before she can say anything else, Gitchi grabs her hand and stares directly at the officer. He coldly warns him to stay away from his woman. If he has any problem with Gitchi, he can speak to his lawyer instead. Then Gitchi takes Yu and leaves. Once they are alone, Yu insists that the meeting was purely a coincidence and begs him to believe her. To her relief, Gitchi tells her that he does believe her. After everything they recently went through, they promise to trust each other, and he intends to keep that promise. Trying to change the subject, Yo asks why he never told her that the shipment had gone missing. Gitchi admits that he kept it from her and apologizes. Unfortunately, the missing shipment means they cannot leave the country yet. Still, he promises her that he will solve the problem as quickly as possible so they can continue with their plans. A short time later, a mysterious package arrives for Yu. She happily assumes it is a gift from Gitchi and opens it. Instead, she finds something horrifying. Inside the box is a severed human body part along with a CD. At the same time, Gitchi learns that threatening messages written in blood have been delivered to his headquarters. His men have also been attacked by a rival gang. One of his subordinates informs him that the gang leader is furious and wants this entire situation resolved immediately. Determined to end the conflict, Gitchi goes to meet the leader of the rival organization. The man turns out to be the same criminal who bought Yu from her brother years ago to settle his debts and later attempted to assault her before Gitchi rescued her. During that confrontation, Gitchi left a permanent scar on the man's face, and he has never forgotten it. The scarred leader glares at Gitchi and tells him that he will pay for killing one of his men and stealing the missing shipment. Gitchi calmly replies that he had nothing to do with either crime. He promises that he will eventually find the shipment and return it. To show his sincerity, he even offers the man a valuable gift, a collection of expensive horses. But the scarred leader is not interested. Instead, he says there is something else he wants. Yu, he admits that he still cannot forget her. To prove it, he even shows Gitchi an old video from years ago of the time he tried to assault her. The moment Gitchi sees it, his expression turns deadly. He smashes a glass bottle and presses the sharp edge against the man's throat. Through clenched teeth, he warns him that the shipment will be returned soon. Until then, the man must stay away from his people and anyone connected to him. As Gitchi leaves, he orders his right-hand man to increase security around Yu immediately. When he returns home, he finds Yu holding the same CD the scarred leader sent her. She asks whether the man in the video is the same person causing all of these problems. Gitchi tries to reassure her. He tells her not to be afraid and says that he will send her out of the country until everything is resolved. Once the danger is gone, he will join her. But Yu refuses. She tells him she will not leave without him. Elsewhere, the gang leader meets with the traitorous officer and several of his men. One of them suggests kidnapping Yu and handing her over to the scarred leader as compensation until the missing shipment is recovered. The gang leader immediately rejects the idea. He knows Gitchi too well. If anything happens to Yu, Gitchi will completely lose control and destroy everyone around him. The leader decides it is safer to wait and see what Gitchi does. He remains convinced that Gitchi will eventually recover the shipment. Later, Yu meets with the traitorous officer and tells him everything that happened. The officer reveals that he already knows. When Yu asks how, he casually explains that they have other sources inside the gang. Then he asks her a serious question. Does she truly intend to bring down the entire organization? And does that include Gitchi as well? Without hesitation, Yu says yes. The moment she leaves the meeting, someone grabs her and drags her inside. As she struggles, she tears a button from her kidnapper's shirt before losing consciousness. The shocking truth is revealed moments later. The person behind the kidnapping is none other than the traitorous officer himself. He delivers Yu directly to the scarred gang leader, who is thrilled that the officer managed to bring her to him. The man laughs and asks what the officer wants in return. The officer smiles and reveals his conditions. He has handed over Gitchi's greatest weakness. In exchange, once Gitchi is dead, he wants Yu returned to him along with the missing shipment. The scarred leader raises his gun suspiciously. Why should he honor any deal with a corrupt police officer? The officer calmly reminds him that he possesses enough evidence to destroy him. Besides, the stolen shipment is impossible to sell without attracting attention. The officer, however, has the connections needed to move it safely and split the profits. After thinking for a moment, the scarred leader admits that the offer is surprisingly reasonable. Then he asks the officer why he wants Yu so badly. The officer finally reveals the truth. He wants everything that belongs to Gitchi. In his mind, Gitchi has everything he has ever wanted: power, loyalty, and Yu's love. As he walks away, he thinks to himself that if Gitchi is the gang leader's favorite wolf, then he refuses to remain the leader's obedient dog forever. One day, he will become a wolf himself. Not long afterward, the scarred leader sends Gitchi photographs of Yu tied up and helpless. Then he calls him. If Gitchi wants her back alive, he must come alone. And he has exactly 1 hour. Without hesitation, Gitchi leaves to rescue her. He refuses to let any of his men accompany him despite their protests. On the way, someone suddenly steps into the road and blocks his car. The stranger calls out to him and then opens fire. Back at the hideout, the scarred leader records a video of Yu while mocking Gitchi for taking so long to arrive. Then the doors burst open. Gitchi is here. He charges into the building and tears through the enemy gang by himself, defeating everyone who stands in his way. Finally, the scarred leader appears. Smiling cruelly, he points toward a large wooden crate and tells Gitchi that Yu is locked inside. But there is a catch. The key is hidden somewhere among a pile of broken glass scattered across the floor. If Gitchi wants to save her, he must get on his knees and search for it like a dog. Without a second thought, Gitchi drops to his knees. Ignoring the sharp shards cutting into his skin, he desperately searches through the glass. The scarred leader records the entire scene while mocking him, pretending to be moved by the sight. Inside the crate, Yu notices a knife lying nearby. Quietly, she grabs it and begins cutting through the ropes binding her hands. Meanwhile, Gitchi continues searching. Glass slices deeper and deeper into his hands until blood is dripping everywhere, but he still cannot find the key. The scarred leader checks his watch and begins counting down the remaining time. With every second that passes, he keeps his gun aimed directly at the crate holding Yu, ready to pull the trigger the moment the countdown reaches 0. At the last possible second, Gitchi finally finds the key hidden among the broken glass. His hands are covered in blood from searching through the shards, but he doesn't care. He rushes to the crate, unlocks it, and pulls Yu out into his arms. The scarred gang leader immediately raises his gun and aims it at both of them. Gitchi steps in front of Yo and tells him that if he wants revenge, he should kill him and let her go. The man laughs and replies that he has no intention of sparing either of them. But then Gitchi reveals something that completely changes the situation. He tells the scarred leader that he knows the truth. He knows that the man is the one who murdered his own boss's brother, stole the missing shipment with the fierce woman, and framed Gitchi for everything. The scarred leader confidently asks how anyone could ever prove it. The fierce woman is dead, and once he sells the shipment. He plans to get rid of both Gitchi and his own boss and rule East Asia by himself. Unfortunately for him, his boss is already listening. The leader suddenly appears and shoots him without hesitation. Furious, he calls him a traitor and declares that death is too merciful a punishment for someone who killed his brother and stole from him. It is then revealed that Gitchi had arranged everything. Earlier, he contacted the gang leader and told him to come if he wanted to learn the truth. Even the person who stopped Gitchi on the road and fired at him was actually sent by the leader as part of the plan. With the traitor exposed, Gitchi immediately begins searching the area for the missing shipment. Yu helps him look, but someone else is already trying to escape with it. The traitorous police officer has secretly located the cargo and is attempting to drive away with it. The moment Gitchi spots him, he opens fire. The officer quickly hides behind a vehicle so nobody can see his face, but one of the bullets strikes his arm. He fires back before abandoning the shipment and fleeing the scene. Later, he changes into his police uniform and pretends he has only just arrived. Soon afterward, Gitchi is arrested and taken to the police station. Sitting across from him is the very same traitorous officer who acts as though he heroically arrived to catch everyone involved in the illegal operation. Meanwhile, the officer approaches Yu privately. He assures her that he disabled the cameras and audio equipment so they can talk freely. By this point, Yu has already figured out that he was the one who kidnapped her. The clue was the button she tore from his shirt while fighting back during the abduction. Trying to gather information, she asks how he discovered her location. The officer calmly repeats the excuse he has used before, claiming that they have other informants inside the gang. Yu immediately challenges him. If you had all these informants, she asks, then why didn't any of them tell you that I had been kidnapped and was about to die? Why didn't you come save me? If Gitchi hadn't arrived, I would be dead. The officer becomes visibly irritated. Everything always seems to come back to Gitchi. Finally, he loses his composure. He reminds Yu of everything he has done for her. He framed the slimy gang member and the fierce woman so everyone would believe they were the traitors. He risked everything to remove suspicion from her. Yet despite all of that, she still chose Gitchi. Then he accuses her of betraying Officer Juwon, the man who raised her. Yu immediately rejects the accusation. She insists that she never betrayed Juwon and that she remains loyal to the promise she made him. The officer changes the subject. He tells her that Gitchi will eventually recover the missing shipment, and when he does, Yu's job is to find out where it is and report back to him. That request instantly raises Yu's suspicions. She asks why he seems so obsessed with the shipment. Shouldn't a police officer be more concerned with gathering evidence and arresting criminals? The officer quickly covers his tracks, claiming that he simply wants to catch the gang while they are in possession of the stolen cargo as well. Later, Yu returns to Gitchi. Looking at him with emotion in her eyes, she tells him that whenever she needs help, he is always there. No matter how cold or dangerous he may seem to others, he has always been kind to her. As she treats the wounds on his hands, Gitchi complains that the medicine tastes terrible. He says he deserves something sweeter instead. Before Yu can respond, he leans forward and kisses her. Not long afterward, Yu visits the fortune teller once again. After their conversation, she climbs to the rooftop, where she often thinks through her problems. There, she finally pieces everything together. Every clue points to the same person. Her former boyfriend is the corrupt officer working with the gang. At last, she realizes the truth. Looking toward the sky, she quietly promises Officer Juwon that she will avenge him. Later, Gitchi and Yu spend time together discussing their future. Gitchi reveals that he had been planning a trip for the two of them to England before Christmas so they could see snow together. The only thing delaying their departure was the final deal he wanted to complete as a birthday gift for the gang leader. That detail immediately gives Yu an idea. She casually asks whether all of the leader's adopted children will attend the birthday celebration. Gitchi tells her that they will. Yu smiles and suggests preparing a special farewell gift for him before they leave the country forever. The day of the birthday celebration finally arrives. Gitchi drinks far too much during the party, so Yu sends him home with his right-hand man. She tells him she will stop by the orphanage and join him later. Meanwhile, the gang leader is sitting in his mansion with the traitorous officer. Together they light the incense Yu gifted him for his birthday. At that exact moment, Yu calls the officer and asks where he is. He confidently lies and says that he is at the police station. What he doesn't know is that Yu is secretly watching him from nearby and can clearly see him sitting inside the mansion with the gang leader. Then she tells him she has discovered the location of the missing shipment and needs to meet him immediately. The officer agrees. They meet at Officer Juwon's grave. Confused, the officer asks why she chose this location. Yu quietly replies that today is her adoptive father's birthday. Then she remarks on the strange irony of fate, a devil and an angel being born on the same day. The officer becomes impatient and asks about the shipment. Yu tells him that she has discovered where it will be delivered, but she still doesn't know the exact time. Satisfied, the officer tells her to contact him as soon as she learns more so he can make the necessary arrangements. While this conversation is happening, the gang leader is opening his birthday presents. Inside one gift, he finds a recording device. Curious, he presses play. What he hears changes everything. The recording contains the traitorous officer's own voice, confessing to everything he has done, his betrayals, his schemes, and his involvement with the gang. As the officer drives away from the cemetery, he suddenly remembers something. The incense. He recalls that Yu specifically insisted he smell it when it was delivered to the leader. He remembers the strange things she said during their conversation. Then, it hits him. Yu knows. She has uncovered his secret. At that exact moment, he notices the gang leader's men arriving at the cemetery and searching for him. Realizing he has been exposed, he jumps out of the car and runs. Meanwhile, Gitchy is asleep at home when his right-hand man wakes him up with urgent news. They have finally discovered who kidnapped you, and they have uncovered several other secrets that will completely shock him. At the same time, the traitorous officer rushes back to confront you. Furious, he slams her head against Jawan's gravestone and accuses her of playing games with him. He saw the gang leader's men, and now he knows she exposed him. Demanding answers, he asks how she discovered the truth. Yu calmly pulls out the shirt button she tore off during her kidnapping and shows it to him. Then she tells him that his own greed exposed him. Elsewhere, Gitchy studies a record of Yu's recent movements. His right-hand man explains that they discovered she met with the officer multiple times. They also confirmed that he was the one who kidnapped her. However, there is one thing they still don't know. They have no idea whether Yu ever realized that the officer was the one behind the kidnapping, or whether she has been secretly investigating him all along. Gitchy immediately asks where Yu is. His right-hand man tells him that she is at Officer Juwan's grave. By the time Gitchy arrives, the traitorous officer has already cornered Yu and is choking her. Consumed by bitterness, he tells her that the two of them are actually the same. He manipulated the gang leader and the police, while she manipulated Gitchy and even betrayed the man who raised her. According to him, she fell in love with a criminal and abandoned the trust of the father who treated her like his own daughter. Yu refuses to accept the comparison. She tells him that she is nothing like him. Then she suddenly pulls out a knife and slashes his neck. The officer laughs through the pain and tells her that she is too weak to kill him. He even pulls her closer and dares her to finish the job if she can. Yu tries to stab him again, but he shoves her away and sends her crashing to the ground. At that exact moment, Gitchy arrives. The traitorous officer looks at him and says that he has come at the perfect time. Then he reveals everything. He tells Gitchy about Yu's plan, how she infiltrated the gang, gathered information, and worked to bring down both him and the entire organization. Before he can say anything else, Gitchy raises his gun and shoots him dead. Without hesitation, Gitchy walks over to Yu. He gently wipes the blood from her hands and helps her to her feet. Soon afterward, gang members arrive and inform him that the leader wants to see him immediately. When they reach the mansion, the guards refuse to allow Yu inside with him. Gitchy instantly loses his temper. He warns everyone not to touch her. When the guards ignore him, he attacks them himself, beating them all to the ground. Then he asks his right-hand man whether their people have surrounded the mansion. The answer is yes. Only then does Gitchy walk alone to meet the gang leader. The leader looks at him and admits that he had been preparing Gitchy to become his successor. He had already instructed his lawyer to transfer control of everything to him after his death. However, he warns Gitchy not to fool himself into believing he can ever live happily with Yu. According to the leader, the two of them are fundamentally different. Gitchy will never be able to fully trust her, and Yu will never truly forgive him for everything he has done. The leader insists that their relationship is doomed from the beginning. Then he suddenly pulls out a sword and attacks. A fierce struggle follows, but in the end, Gitchy disarms him, takes the sword away, and kills him. Down below, Yu hears the sounds of fighting. A few moments later, she watches in horror as the leader's lifeless body crashes down from above. Then Gitchy walks toward her. Looking exhausted, he tells her that he has finally repaid the debt he owed her. After a pause, he quietly asks a question that has been haunting him for years. "Did you ever love me?" Tears begin rolling down Yu's face, but she cannot answer. After waiting for a moment, Gitchy shakes his head. "It doesn't matter," he says. "I don't need to know anymore. There are no obstacles left between us now. Maybe one day you'll learn to love me." Then he orders his right-hand man to spread a new story. Everyone will be told that the leader secretly cooperated with the police and later took his own life. Anyone who dares tell a different version of events will suffer the consequences. Yu returns home with Gitchy, but she becomes like a shadow of herself. She barely speaks. She refuses to eat or drink. Day after day, she simply sits in silence. Desperate to make her happy, Gitchy takes her to a place she loves. There he reveals the piano she once admired. He tells her that he will do anything to make her smile again. But Yu finally decides to tell him the truth. She admits that she lied to him from the very beginning. Everything started as a plan. She got close to him to use him, destroy the gang leader, and bring down the organization. Before she can continue, Gitchi interrupts her. He tells her that none of that matters anymore. He loves her. He refuses to judge her for the past and wants them to forget everything and start over together. Yu sadly shakes her head. She tells him they were never meant for each other. In her eyes, he is no longer much different from the leader he killed. The longer she stays with him, the more she sees the same darkness growing inside him. She begs him to let her leave. Gitchi refuses. He reminds her that he decides when things begin and when they end. Yu desperately argues that love cannot be forced. He cannot make her love him or force her to stay with him forever. But Gitchi refuses to listen. Obsessed and unable to let her go, he carries her away and forces her back to their room. Afterward, Yu reaches her breaking point. Unable to endure the situation any longer, she slashes her wrists and tries to end her life. Fortunately, Gitchi finds her in time and saves her. The incident completely destroys him. Later, he sits alone, drinking and crying while remembering Yu's words and the gang leader's warning. Both of them said the same thing. They were not meant for each other. Yet, no matter how much pain it caused him, he still could not bring himself to let her go. At that moment, his right-hand man enters and tells him that the council elders want to cooperate with him now that the leader is dead. They are waiting to meet him. The next day, Gitchi visits Yu carrying a small box that belongs to her. He tells her that if she refuses to eat, he will throw it into the sea. Knowing how important the box is, Yu reluctantly begins eating. Gitchi watches her and coldly tells her that things are different now. He is done comforting her and treating her gently. From now on, she will pay for what she did to him. Still, he adds that if she behaves and listens to him, he might eventually allow her to leave. Then he instructs his right-hand man to inform the council elders that he has agreed to work with them. Meanwhile, Yu visits Officer Juwon's grave. Crying, she apologizes to him. She tells him she failed. She is completely alone now and no longer knows how to fulfill her promise to destroy the gang. While she is there, another police officer who once knew Juwon approaches her. He asks for her help and hands her Juwon's old phone. He hopes she can decrypt the messages inside and uncover information that could finally bring down the organization. Yu refuses. She tells him that she no longer trusts anyone. Then, she walks away. Back at the mansion, Gitchi officially takes the dead leader's place. He sits in the leader's chair holding the man's cane while every member of the organization bows before him. One by one, he removes the council elders who oppose his rise to power. He even bribes one influential council member who offers to support him. Later, Gitchi meets with that same corrupt elder and his spoiled daughter, the beauty queen from the nightclub incident. The elder proposes a business partnership. He wants Gitchi to seize valuable land along the coast, build factories there, and expand the organization's operations. As an additional incentive, he offers his daughter as Gitchi's future wife. Gitchi initially points out that the land belongs to local fishermen. If he takes it from them, they will hate him. The elder simply laughs and reminds him of his reputation. He thought Gitchi was a wolf who feared nothing. In the end, Gitchi accepts the proposal. Soon, his men begin taking land from the fishermen by force. When Yu learns what is happening, she is horrified. Things become even worse when she witnesses Gitchi brutally beating one of his own trusted men. The man's only crime was trying to stop the elder's thugs from attacking fishermen who refused to sell their land. Even Gitchi's right-hand man objects to what is happening. But Gitchi humiliates him as well and warns that he will receive the same treatment if he continues questioning his decisions. Unable to stay silent any longer, Yu confronts him. She asks when he became the kind of man who treats his own people like this. In her eyes, he has become even worse than the leader. Gitchi explodes with anger. He grabs her by the throat and tells her not to overestimate her importance. The only reason he keeps her beside him is to punish her and make her suffer. Before leaving, he throws documents at her and orders her to sign them. When Yu examines the papers, she discovers that they transfer ownership of the nightclub from her name to the corrupt elder's daughter. Furious, she goes to the nightclub with one of Gitchi's men. There she encounters the waitress who once helped her during the opening ceremony. The young woman has clearly been beaten and is desperately trying to escape from the elder's daughter and her thugs. Yu soon discovers the reason. The waitress is actually an undercover journalist who has been secretly collecting evidence against them. Without hesitation, Yu orders Gitchi's man to help the journalist escape. Just then, the elder's daughter arrives. Realizing the journalist is gone, she storms toward Yu and demands to know where she sent the girl. Then, consumed by rage, she raises her hand and prepares to attack her. Just as the corrupt council member's daughter is about to attack Yu, Gitchi suddenly steps in and stops her. Calmly, he tells her not to worry because his men already captured both the undercover journalist and the man who helped her escape. Then he asks what she would like to do with them and assures her that he will support whatever decision she makes. The spoiled woman happily returns home with them. Yu desperately pleads for mercy on behalf of the journalist and Gitchi's loyal subordinate who helped her escape. But the woman treats Yu like garbage. She proudly tells Gitchi that he has finally earned both her trust and her father's trust. Because of that, they are ready to introduce him to extremely powerful people. She even starts talking about preparing for their future wedding as if it has already been decided. Things only get worse for Yu. The spoiled woman takes over Yu's bedroom, forcing her to sleep with the servants. That night, Yu secretly looks at a note hidden in her hand. It was given to her by the undercover journalist before they were separated. The note contains the location of a safe filled with documents that could expose the entire organization. Immediately, Yu contacts the honest police officer and tells him that she has finally decided to work with him. She explains that she is putting together a plan and will contact him again soon. Meanwhile, Yu begins preparing for her next move. She offers to do the spoiled woman's nails and cleverly collects her fingerprint using a layer of nail cream. Later, she sneaks into the nightclub, opens the hidden safe using the stolen fingerprint, and retrieves the files stored inside. But just as she is about to leave, the spoiled woman arrives with several men. Moments later, Gitchi appears as well. Looking at Yu coldly, he reminds her that he warned her not to cause any more trouble. Then, to Yu's shock, he turns to the spoiled woman and says he is removing his protection from her. According to him, they can do whatever they want with her. The spoiled woman's men seize Yu and lock her inside a coffin, intending to bury her alive. As if that wasn't horrifying enough, one of the thugs suggests assaulting her first before burying her. Thankfully, before they can carry out their plan, someone intervenes and rescues Yu. When she wakes up, she is stunned to find the undercover journalist, the man who helped her escape, and Gitchi's right-hand man standing around her. Confused, Yu asks how all of them are still alive. She thought they had been punished, and she believed Gitchi had personally turned against them. That is when Gitchi's right-hand man reveals the truth. Everything was an act. Gitchi only pretended to side with the corrupt council member and his daughter so he could earn their trust. In reality, ever since Yu tried to take her own life, he has been secretly working to give her the justice she always wanted. He wanted to prove his love not with words, but through actions. Determined to become the man Yu believed he could be, Gitchi decided to clean up the corruption around him and destroy the criminal empire from within. He secretly approached the honest police officer and made a deal. He would help eliminate every gang operating in the city, including his own organization. In exchange, he requested lighter sentences for his loyal men, protection for Yu after he was gone, and a guarantee that she would live safely. He even asked the officer to give Yu hope and make sure she never felt alone. Then Gitchi's right-hand man tells Yu that Gitchi needs her help one final time. The corrupt council member moved the incriminating documents to a new safe. Yu must use the fingerprint she collected from his daughter to open it and retrieve the evidence. At the same time, Gitchi meets with the spoiled woman and her father. He finally drops the mask. He openly reveals that he has been manipulating them all along. While they stare in disbelief, he informs them that someone is already retrieving the documents that prove all of their crimes. The corrupt council member laughs and tells Gitchi that whoever went after those files is already dead. The safe is located near the border, protected by military special forces. Nobody will leave that place alive. Unfortunately for him, Yu and Gitchi's right-hand man are already there. The moment Yu opens the safe and takes the files, alarms begin blaring throughout the facility. Within seconds, armed forces surround them. Gitchi's right-hand man immediately shields Yu from the incoming gunfire and orders her to run. Yu escapes toward the road while he stays behind to cover her retreat. The soldiers pursue them relentlessly. Eventually, he catches up to Yu, but before they can escape together, he is struck by multiple bullets and collapses. He dies protecting her. At that exact moment, Gitchi arrives. Without hesitation, he grabs Yu, throws her into his vehicle, and speeds away. As they flee, Gitchi quietly tells her that this will be the last time she ever sees him. He urges her to take care of herself and live a happy life. Then he tells her that he hopes one day she finds someone she can love and who will love her in return. Yu immediately senses something is wrong. She asks why he is talking like that. Only then does she notice the blood. Gitchi has been badly wounded. Desperately, she begs him to stop the car and go to a hospital, but Gitchi refuses. He says there is no time. His only concern now is getting her to safety and delivering her to the honest police officer. Then, with a sad smile, he says that someone like him was always destined to die eventually. Still, he has no regrets. He is simply grateful that he met her and had the chance to love her. Eventually, they reach the meeting point. Gitchi says goodbye. Before she leaves, he returns the bracelet she once gave him. Yu steps out of the car and joins the honest police officer. Meanwhile, Gitchi remains behind, watching her one last time as life slowly fades from his body. After his death, everything changes. The corrupt council member, his daughter, and the other council members are arrested. Their crimes are exposed, and they are eventually sentenced to death. Gitchi's loyal men receive reduced sentences because they cooperated with the police and helped dismantle the criminal organizations. Later, the honest police officer meets Yu and tells her that everything is finally over. For the first time in years, she is free to start a new life. Sometime afterward, Yu visits the fortune teller once again. The fortune teller gives her unexpected news. Gitchi may be gone, but he left a part of himself behind. Yu is pregnant. Soon after, Yu meets with Gitchi's lawyer. The lawyer informs her that Gitchi transferred everything he owned into her name before his death. He also donated a large portion of his fortune to the orphanage she loved. Inspired by his final wishes, Yu transforms their home into an orphanage and invites the children from the orphanage she used to visit to come live there. One day, while the children are playing around the house, they accidentally knock a piece of paper out of one of Gitchi's books. Yu picks it up and discovers that it is a letter written to her. In the letter, Gitchi confesses that he fell in love with her from the very first moment he saw her. He writes that she was the light that entered his life and illuminated a path he never knew existed. More than anyone else, she reminded him that he was still a human being and not the monster he believed himself to be. And that is where the story comes to an end. Honestly, it is a heartbreaking ending. Gitchi finally changed, fought to become a better person, and sacrificed everything for the woman he loved, yet he never got the chance to live the life he dreamed of with her. Many people would probably say he deserved a second chance. But in the end, the only thing he left behind was his love, his sacrifice, and the hope that Yu could finally find peace.